Okay. Okay. So I'll get out of mask again. Here we go. So again, the ambiguity is the things that are totally unknown to us, that happen, and we don't know how the clarity of it is not seen to us. We can't feel it. We don't know it. And again, the uncertainty is we don't know what the results are going to be. The amount of the more we go towards the plus in the area, the more it's going to be more ambiguous, more uncertain, more complex, more volatile. And I guess we're living during all our decision making, starting a year ago, to the extreme, all these mixtures of things that are happening to all of us. Again, that requires from us to be able to look at things in a different perspective, to be able to view from a different angle, to be able to, again, assess, find solutions. We're pushed to find solutions out of the box because we all are living in limited resources times with a lot of demands and a lot of things that need to be done. I'm sure all of you live this every day of your lives. We live it in our personal lives, and we live it also more so in our work, so to speak. So what does sort of an entrepreneur do in a situation like this? I guess a lot of, sorry, just a minute. There's a message, I just need to see what that is. Okay. Sorry. The share has stopped for a reason. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. The usual technical stuff. Okay, you need louder voice. Is this better? Maybe I'm sitting too far back. I'll move forward. Because somebody's saying that my voice is low. So can you hear me better now? I'll try to raise it a bit. Anyway, so there is the basic statement that we keep saying is that the future belongs to those who can think like an entrepreneur. Again, not every one of us is an entrepreneur. And we don't require that everyone to be an entrepreneur, but I always think that if we think in an entrepreneurial way, then we will be able to use the best that's available in the entrepreneurship area and utilize it in order to create something that is useful and different in our day-to-day work. Because again, it's how we think, and it's not only what we do. Entrepreneurship has become like a job. People, when they ask, what are you? They say, we are an entrepreneur. So that's not exactly what we're talking about here. We're talking about how does an entrepreneur think? So it's the entrepreneurial mindset and the different things that are inside the head, or the tools and the skills that the entrepreneur uses or learns in his journey, that we think that are the ones that we have to develop and learn. And those are learnable, by the way. Just being a born entrepreneur may be and might not be learnable, but again, we can learn the mindset of an entrepreneur, and that would help us to do a lot of things. Okay, so what is the entrepreneurial mindset? Again, it's simply a way to think and act. It's how you see things. It's at the core of a mixture of different things like characteristics, behaviors, skills, what drives us towards a certain action, to take a certain direction of things. Again, a person with an entrepreneurial mindset recognizes opportunities that are not there, not seen by everybody. Again, sometimes, as I said, when I started, I said that, for example, COVID, although it's very harsh, very hard, and it hit us in so many ways, there is still a lot of people as entrepreneurs, they see it as an opportunity to change, an opportunity to develop and new ways of doing things, an opportunity to take more risks than normal. So again, that's how you have to change sort of the perspective of how you look at things. And that's an entrepreneurial mindset. Again, what does it require when you have all of these things? I need to be able to share this with others. So my communication has to be pretty good, because I need to be able to, again, communicate all my ideas in a very clear way so that I can engage others and get them to have a buy-in sort of into my idea. Other than that, I will have a beautiful idea. I'm in a room by myself, thinking about it, enjoying it, and it's not going to impact anybody or going to do any change. So it's a bit of, like marketing, selling, and the communication is not just saying it. It's like convincing. It's getting the other person in front of you to be able to own a certain part of that idea of yours. Again, once you start rolling it out, what happens is that you need to readjust all the time. And that's something that I usually get a comment on from a lot of people. I work also in development as part of my work now. And the idea is we start in a certain path. We have all the ideas thought out, written, the plan, and we start to implement. Again, something happens. And we realize that there is an opportunity there, that there is something we could shift a bit in the whole thing, and we shift it. Maybe we start with a setting of a certain number of people working in that project. We have predicted that we need, for example, 10 people. But when we interview people, we start to realize that, for example, that person can do the job of 2. So you start to adjust the whole idea. And that is part of the entrepreneurial journey. Many people feel unsafe sometimes by doing that and changing things along the journey. But actually, that is a day-to-day life in entrepreneurship. Again, you live with risks and setbacks every day and many times during the day. Even if we're talking about, it's like the weather in England, for example, it changes 100 times a day. So the setbacks are there in the entrepreneurial life. And again, it's going to be it has to be part of the entrepreneurial mindset, that you need to be able to cope with many of the setbacks, that you are taking that journey, directed to that thing, and then all of a sudden something pops up, like the kid games that they play on the computer. All of a sudden things that just attack you. I think that's exactly how an entrepreneur feels on day-to-day basis. It wasn't expected, but it happens. So again, we have to be able to have resourcefulness and the ability to analyze, see, very good problem solving. You need to all the time see an opportunity in everything that's happening. As part of the things that are written here, you have to, again, comfortable with risk and very creative and innovative. Again, many people, I taught like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, a creative thinking course to fresh students. And the fascinating thing is that most of them in the first day, they said, we don't think we're creative. But by the end, they realized we're all born creative to different degrees, but how do we utilize that creativity? How do we see it? And how does it play into our day-to-day sort of decision-making, viewing, and analysis of situations that we live? Because that is part of what we have to, again, learn and teach ourselves to do it. The first reaction is always that we have a problem, and that problem, like sort of paralyzes us or makes us see that we can't solve it. But the creativity, when it kicks in, actually, that really helps, because you can start all of a sudden and say, okay, maybe I can do such and such a thing, and it will change the outcome. So it is very important for us to play and use or utilize the creativity that we have inside us. Maybe we're not innovative in the ways of making it sort of on the implementation level, but still, if we have a team or a group of people that can take that and fly with that idea, or we communicate it properly, how we see that problem, again, we'll be able to play in the area of creativity and innovation. Okay. Why do we need an entrepreneurial mindset? again, it's interesting because some people say we're fine as we are, but with the new normal, this is becoming more and more essential. Why? Because we have to make a lot of decisions based on limited information. Although now we live the life of the big data, everything is being collected, everything is recorded, still it's not enough. Sometimes we just have to make a decision based on, again, as I said, very limited information, and it will impact lives. So again, an entrepreneurial mindset will really help in doing that. We are really pressed in time all the time now. I mean, having the luxury of setting timelines of like in a month time or 2 months or 3 months we can do something, actually does not happen, because you're not that sure what's going to be happening in 3 months time. The ambiguity is very high, the risk is high, so we're time compressed, and we have limited resources. Our resources, although they are and they exist there, we still do not have enough, because the needs have increased a lot. So this is another challenge that you need an entrepreneurial mindset for. Again, there are no guarantees for anything. We're playing a game of completely no rules. To that extent, we're close to no rules. Yes, there are, of course, they exist in a lot of ways, but again, we make up the rules as we go along. So there are no guarantees of what the outcome is, so the risk is very high. Again, we need to take the risk, as I said now, okay? And at the same time, the competition, the whole sphere of work is changing. A lot of people working in retail, for example, now, are really paralyzed. They don't know what to do. They don't understand the market. So competition, I'm giving examples from different areas. I know that we have to go into another area of entrepreneurship, but still, the people that were very sure of their competition, knowing who is going to be selling at a certain price, at a certain time, now they have no clue. So they're playing, again, as I said, with no rules whatsoever. The market is changing on hour-by-hour basis, and sometimes daily, monthly, whatever. So it's still a very changeable atmosphere. The life cycles of products and services are becoming shorter because the needs are changing again on daily basis. So whatever we create today, we have to change in a very short time. So I think that shows how much we need an entrepreneurial mindset. But can we really have it? Do we have the characteristics for that entrepreneurial mindset? Okay, let's see. So here we have, we picked the 6 most important 6 characteristics of entrepreneurial mindsets. So they're simply based on things that we do on a daily basis. We need to see and create opportunities, because without that, we are not going to be in the creative area. We have to turn a lot of the ideas that cross our minds, and we sometimes say that they're not really important, or that they can't be applied because they're too far-fetched. We have to turn them into action and see and evaluate if they really would make an impact and solve something that we're facing that usually couldn't have been solved. So we need to be innovative in how we turn ideas into action. It's not just simply we take it and break it down into an implementation plan. Actually, it's not. It has to be balanced. Again, with the word that you're going to be hearing a lot today is innovation. And again, how your team and your support group that's going to be working with that are going to be effective enough to be able to make that innovative idea into a reality. We need to be able to lead and delegate. We have to engage others in it. I mean, the time for just making a decision and making, number of people, just a few number of people implementing it, I think is gone. We cannot do that. The problems and the situations that we're facing are much, much bigger than a small group. It needs to have a group engagement. It needs to be developed through a mindset of people seeing that there needs to be a different way of looking at things. We have to take different paths. We really have to think in a different way. Other than that, we're going to be facing a lot unsurmountable problems. And if we're not creative, innovative, or grouply working at it, we're going to be facing big problems. Okay. Again, as we said before, the resources that we have are not growing. They're actually, if they're not the same, they're getting less. So how, again, that's part of the innovation that we need to do, is how to utilize them in the best way. Maybe before we used to be able to say that we have, for example, X amount, we can really spend it on making that happen. But we're not really thinking of how much can we really spare. Can we do it in a different way that's smarter, that's more innovative, and we can save a certain amount and add it? So it will require from us to have that characteristic of the entrepreneurial mindset of really working out the resources in a way that we could have the best out of it, and maybe even better than the best to use it in other things. We need to spare all the time something that maybe we could utilize and something that will pop up tomorrow. How can we really include part of this in the resources, the, different ways to make things work, so to speak? How can we manage risk? Risk is, again, something that we don't like. Most of us do not enjoy working with a big risk factor because, again, the failure rate could be high. But we have to learn, using an entrepreneurial mindset, how to manage that risk. Again, not every entrepreneur dives into empty pools, so to speak. I gave that example several times because I was asked, for example, the first company that I started is how to manage that risk. The first company is I decided to start, and I was asked, did you do a business plan? That was in the like in the 80s. So did you do a business plan? At the time, it was not a real business plan that we're talking about today. So practically, I jumped in an empty pool, but at the same time, I managed the risk because I could think in my head that if this happened, I would do that and such a thing. So again, it needs a plan. Managing risk, of course, nothing in life is that simple as just, a simple entrepreneur doing one project. But still, I think we need to have plans for managing risk, anticipating what's the outcomes, what could happen, and how we can overcome that. Collaboration. Collaboration is key in this. If we do not know how to collaborate in person to person, industry to industry, in bigger networks, from one ministry to the other, from one department to the other, I think the innovation is not going to be, and the management of resources and the reduction of risk is not going to be happening. So collaborating is key into the main characteristics of entrepreneurial mindsets. So basically, this is what it takes, that's the characteristics of entrepreneurial mind. Does anybody have any questions here, or should I keep going? Anybody who wants to send a question, I have the question area open, and I'll respond right away. Okay. So what does it take to have an entrepreneurial mindset? Does it take studying, degrees? Actually, we have to dip into ourselves and go a bit into what we have as, like basic skills that we're born with. Some of it is just simply like curiosity, because that starts us off by knowing the why, the what, and that gets us all the information we need to gather to be able to have a bigger view of what's happening. Again, here, I'm just simplifying things to start with, because we're going to go in the more dense area of public entrepreneurship. But this is basically what we require to have to be able to use inside, to implement actually entrepreneurial mindsets into more public spheres. So, and that's answering one of the questions, what is the theme here? It's actually entrepreneurial mindsets in public spheres. So going back again, it's curiosity. We need to ask the whys, the whats, and find ways to use the information that we have, which is creative. We have to have the potential to learn and accomplish more through, again, all the characteristics that we've mentioned before. We have to, just step out of our comfort zones of going back always and utilizing the areas or the tools or the means that we've always done and things worked, because that is the safe zone that most of us like to be in. Because again, we know the results. It's not hard to guess that if we do one, we're going to get to the two. But still, when you have an entrepreneurial mindset and you really want to utilize and go into a bigger level, you need to have the courage to risk and step out of that comfort zone. Again, it requires a lot of persistence. We keep doing the same thing with improvements every day until we get it right. I know that's hard because we don't have, again, as we said, the time, but still, that's the way to be able to get to a point where we realize what is the real problem and how we can work at it. How can we find a creative way of taking it to safety and to success? So persistence is very important. And next to persistence, I'm going to add something is passion, because again, being entrepreneur requires a lot of passion about any idea. I mean, one of the things that are very, very important is to believe in what we are doing. Whatever path we're going to be taking is we have to decide that we have to be passionate about it, because we can convince others, we can really create functional systems, we can find opportunities and problems, we can do all the things we talked about in the first couple of slides. Okay. We need to, again, sorry, somebody is writing about the jumping into empty pools. I'll get back to that, definitely. Okay. Yes, of course, we can share the presentation, and I think you need to go into a lot of details. We still have a long journey. And please, if you want to discuss anything, please let me know, okay? Stop me, send a question, I'll jump out, answer, come back, and no problem whatsoever. If we need it to be interactive, we need you to be able to understand and utilize and even ask any question that comes. Again, we're talking here about entrepreneurial mindset, so we need to have the entrepreneurial spirit during all this time we're going to be spending together. So let's challenge ourselves and see how we can get to interesting areas of ideas and work and implementations. Again, okay, we need to be able to find creative solutions. Problem solving is key, because usually when we look at the problem, the problem solving is really something that stops us. But with persistence and with the ability to develop creative solutions, then we can really take it to another level. Okay. Failure, because again, as we said, failure is always there. It is a possibility, and it's always there with risk. So it's very important to be able to say that we could, in our main plan, we could have a failure here, or we could face a problem here that could start us or take us back to step one. We talked about resources. The empathy is important, of course, because we have to think what other people need. It's key. If we don't know what other people need, we will not be able to design creatively and innovatively anything that can really take us to success. We work in a closed room. We're not going to be able to, again, understand what are we working towards. what do we want to achieve? Again, it could be an idea in our heads, but if we don't have the people that will need it or benefit from it, then the problem-solving area is not going to be very effective in us, with us, to be able to fine-tune and improve. Okay. As we said, again, we need to be very adaptable and change along the way if we're working under an entrepreneurial mindset. It's not about a status quo. It's always about being fluid, gathering information, being able to know more, and at the same time, adjusting the main idea that we're working with, or how do we take it to the next step. Okay. Okay. So how do we develop this entrepreneurial mindset? Do we sit there just practicing? Actually, it's simple. It's not very hard. We could take a course, but then it's studying the facts, but not practicing. I think when we reach a certain level of expertise in our lives, we can actually develop that mind from our experience more than anything else. So if we work at, for example, the focus and the vision itself, we need to work with things that we've learned all along to create SMART goals. But again, those SMART goals need to be three-dimensional. We need to imagine them, visualize them, put them in contexts that are different, bigger, maybe with more players, more different people. So this could be a practice by itself on how we can, focus and improve our vision into an entrepreneurial mindset. And we have to be able to dare a bit and move out of our comfort zone all the time. Okay, how do we practice and turn our mind into accepting uncertainty? Okay, it's very simple. We take a piece of paper and we put all the risks on them, and probably find out how we can work with every one of those if they happen, and who is going to be impacted. What is the plan to do this? We need to evaluate the risk factor. Is it going to be high risk? Can we take it now? Or do we need to take it step by step? Again, if we just write it, it's going to be easier for us to be able to think out of the box and use that risk either as an opportunity or as a way of finding the innovative solution for it. To learn resilience and perseverance, for example, we need to embrace failure. We need to embrace risk-taking. We need to gather around us people that can support and give us a support system of how we can affect that change in that way, in that different way, so to speak. Because again, we will be doing something out of the box. It's not something that is always accepted, and it's not always practiced or seen or known what the results are. Okay, I think we can go into the bias for action and decisiveness. The other ones are more self-explanatory, so to speak. Again, we need to be able to make decisions and avoid the bias that exists against our ideas, because that will exist in groups where you're going to be working with. So we need to develop, again, a system of thinking that becomes data oriented. So when people come and say, for example, that this action is going to cause a problem in that area, or we don't accept that, we have data that can really support us in the argument of presenting this. It's very important for us to be able to build this. It's not hard. We have the data already, or part of it. We just need to arrange it in a way that makes it more sellable, more able to be presented to others in a way that can convince them that this is not a very dangerous path, but it's a path that is new and could lead to better results. And in all cases, of course, as we said, we need to be focused on things that we can control and be very positive on what are the solid areas that we are standing on. Okay, so it's very important for us to be able to do that. Okay. When we use that path of an entrepreneurial mindset, where does it reflect in different things? Here we have a quick diagram that puts all things together, but actually that's, for example, it affects our opportunity recognition. It gives us a better chance to see opportunities, to utilize new opportunities, to get new ideas, new ways of doing things. It's really a key that will open up sort of closed cupboards that we have not looked into at all. Usually we look at one problem from one angle. So if, for example, we look at whatever, I mean, if there is a problem like, let's say, traffic in Egypt, it's a huge problem, okay? But still, what is the opportunity in this? The opportunity is, again, we could find solutions in dividing people or giving people different routes. And that's what happened now. We're building new routes so that traffic jams have been reduced by a huge amount. It's simple, but it wasn't done for years. Not just for, it wasn't considered as an opportunity before, it was considered as a problem that we have to put on the side. We have too many cars in Cairo and we cannot do anything about it. We just have to live with it. It's not true. We don't have to live with it. We can actually find different ways of doing it, and it's possible to do it. The resources were limited, yes, but still there is a way. And we can imagine, we couldn't imagine, for example, I mean, we having like 5-6 routes to get to one area. We usually had one way to go from point A to point B. Now we have like 10 different ways. They are longer, shorter, more efficient, but still you get there. So again, it's possible to be able to think of different opportunities. Okay, you need to focus all your plans and strategies on people when you have the entrepreneurial mindset. Without people, you cannot really achieve a lot. So you have to create the project and build sort of the selling edge, the competitive edge of that idea, and start to present it to a smaller group that will be your ambassadors that can take it on to the next level, and the next level. This happens actually in companies, it happens in different things, but still, that is exactly what it is. It's people-centric. It cannot be just on objects and things that are happening. People are the key in the entrepreneurial leadership. Okay, balanced strategic position. Hi, Karim. Okay, this is supposed to be in 45 minutes. We wrap it up. Okay, so it's, I think, quarter to, we need to be like in 5, we started a bit late, I think. So it's about in 10 minutes maximum, okay? Or less, actually. We can make it quicker if you want. Again, there has to be, and the key that we're going to be using later on is the entrepreneurial leadership, because that is the driving force behind all of this entrepreneurial mindset. And we're going to talk about it later on in detail. Okay, very quickly, can entrepreneurship be in government? Actually, surprisingly, when I was looking around in this, I discovered that entrepreneurship in government has been introduced since the 60s. But actually, it has been put on the shelf because, again, there was another way of doing things. But it is an idea that now is booming. It's becoming more sexy and it's becoming more effective in a lot of ways. So public entrepreneurs all over the world are really improving lives. They're making a huge difference in creating change and inventing new ways of serving the public and doing or giving them better services. But there is one problem, is that there isn't enough of them. Again, they are few, scattered, and usually they have a lot of people not agreeing with their viewpoints because they are working in the area of high risk. So without more public entrepreneurship, we will not be able to, in the changing and the very ambiguous world we're living, we need to be able to face those challenges and make the most of the private innovation that could be brought into the public sphere. Okay. So the new vocabularies for governments and institutions are starting to use things like co-creating and shaping, welcoming uncertainty, tilting towards a direction, picking the willing, capacity building, dynamic spillovers. So the wording inside governments and institutions is changing. It's not just sticking to the old methodology or the old words. And this is happening because of public entrepreneurs. More of them are in there, and they are really working at moving this huge giant into a direction that will really impact lives, because that is what the main purpose is. People are in government to serve the public. And the only way to do it in a different way with all those changes in the world is to start to change the perspectives and the way things are done. Okay. So we have 5 more minutes. Can we take before we go, we can stop at this one and then move to take sort of like a break and then come back to take the leadership part, because again, we have questions about leadership traits. So entrepreneurial mindset in organizations is a bit different than it is for individuals. Again, the emergence of the entrepreneurial economy as a whole has affected a lot of things, and that is pushing a lot of organizations and governments also into thinking in a different way. So knowledge, technology, quick data that's being shared all over the place. Again, funding mechanisms have changed. Different industries are working in a different way. So all of these really push organizations that have before not used entrepreneurial mindset to actually incorporating and encouraging people inside it to be able to think differently. Like, it's surprising that even private sector companies have started this not far ago. I mean, government is a surprising thing to be able to start to work in entrepreneurial mindsets, but private sector companies, we would think that would be there from the beginning, but actually many of them are not. Recently, for example, some of the companies, like in the past 10 years, they started encouraging managers not to just create systems and build structures, but actually to start to think out of the box and find them solutions that are different. The most experienced, sometimes they found that, for example, somebody that was very, very sort of practical in the way they do things, actually became the most entrepreneurial, because when they're given the opportunity, they're the ones that saw every detail, the small problems, they are the ones who could present to an innovator all the ideas of how to overcome the things that are holding them back. And some of the people that were thought to be really entrepreneurial are the ones that were risk averse and didn't do it. So again, every area, personal, organizational, and public, even that the best way they can do it is going to the entrepreneurial mindset, there's still a lot of problems and a lot of resistance to doing that. And if you want to take a break now and we come back to continue, I think it's a 15-minute break, if it's correct. And I'll see you back, okay? Here we go. Share. Okay. So I think we moved back. We need to get to this one. Okay. We'll try to go through this quickly. Again, we have talked about in the previous part about entrepreneurial mindset. And we found, like in this, sorry, let's go back to this one very quickly. This one, we need an entrepreneurial leadership. So what does it take to be able to lead through an entrepreneurial leadership? Okay, so here we'll talk about it, and I'll fly through it very quickly so that we can have more questions and interactive talks as we go along. Okay, what is entrepreneurial leadership actually? It's, again, the core of it is innovation, okay? Risk optimizer, ownership, you manage change, and you lead people. Because those are the key traits that really make a difference in how you lead in any situation. So, entrepreneurial leaders, they initiate change through a lot of strategic actions. And those actions actually reshape organizations. They reshape the routines and the things that are happening inside the organization itself. And they start to think of how to mobilize and use resources properly. Next to this, as we said, one of the key things is innovation. So any leader that is an entrepreneurial leader needs to be able to think innovatively on how to change the environment in which people work and to create conditions and systems that are more conducive towards that change. So innovation, and at the same time, strategic actions, and involve organizing, motivating a group of people to achieve, which is communicate. So you need to communicate with all those teams, with all those groups, and you need to take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves that can create the change that we want to see within a dynamic organizational environment that has been already initiated by those entrepreneurial leaders. So it's all sort of connected together, and it all needs to be done, not particularly in a certain order, but again, we have to have a champion to be able to see and have the passion to be able to create that change, have in the team, if not even in the leader, fully innovation, again, because that innovation will create and help the vision of the leader to create an environment that's more conducive to change, and to convince people to be able to, again, take that step towards making it happen, okay? So very quickly, I'll go through the characteristics of an entrepreneurial leader. If we're sharing this, I don't want to go through every detail, so we can cover a lot of more material. So communication skills is key. And again, it's how we articulate the ideas and the visions that we have, so that people do not have like sort of blind spots, and their minds start to work towards that that person is taking too much risk and it's taking us into a disaster area, and we don't want to be part of this. We want to, for example, keep our jobs, and that conflict actually is really a killer for entrepreneurial leadership. So when you communicate properly and share the vision in a way that makes others excited to see it happen, it's very important, okay? I know somebody here said about that entrepreneurial mindset should be developed from childhood, but actually not necessarily. I totally think that it could be developed at any stage if we have the will and the means and the programs to be able to do it. Yes, maybe the impact entrepreneurial leadership could be much bigger if you started in childhood, but still it could be felt and it could create change and impact lives if it happens at any part of your life, if you have the will and you have the proper programs to be able to do it. Okay, and we'll see later on how this was used in another other countries. Okay, vision. Again, an entrepreneurial leader has to have the vision and the ability to see beyond what others see. In a more aerial view, I always say that we need to be able to take ourselves several notches up, maybe higher than others. You know, once I went skydiving, and the beauty of it is that you saw everything so still, everything so beautiful from up there. It was, things were not very clear as such, but still, I could see the whole thing. It was an amazing feeling. That was the excitement that I think an entrepreneurial leader should have. I can move all the way up there and at the same time see the bigger picture and then start to work with my teams on the smaller details. Again, how you communicate that vision is very important. You need to believe in everything that you're going to be sharing, and you have the confidence to be able to push and persevere with all the people that are fighting that idea, thinking that you are taking tremendous risks, using resources not smartly. They will go anything against an idea that's different. So if you believe in this and you see it clearly, you will be able to persevere and have the strength to continue, okay? So to be able to do that, to tell you the truth, we need to be able to see ourselves clearly. We need to know our areas of strength and the areas of weakness, because then we will know how to fortify people around us in different areas to make this more successful and less risky. Okay. Okay, share success. This is something that's really important. I mean, if we're taking the risks together, even if your team does not really support it at the beginning, when you share what comes out, even if it's a success that's maybe you through your hard work, a small group through their belief in the whole thing are pushing it forward and it really succeeds. When you say the whole unit has worked at this, they somehow fall into the feeling that we would like to be part of this. So sharing success is part of that entrepreneurial leadership, okay? Okay. You need to be involved as an entrepreneurial leader. You do not give the vision. You do not just give the order for something to happen and you say the team is going to implement it. Actually, you have to be inside what's happening, sort of being in the middle of a very busy bus station. You need to see and feel, because it falls on your shoulders to be able to do the changes that are going to be happening. You need to be able to make the decision at the right time to change direction, maybe to reduce that risk by deciding now that we need to do this or that. So being involved is very important. Involved either being there or getting all the data or the observations to be able to decide what needs to be done, okay? Being supportive is very important. Again, people are going to be coming out, if you're really building an entrepreneurial atmosphere and culture, so to speak, people can come up with ideas that might not always sort of succeed. Yes, you're going to be there with your vision guiding it, but still there could be a risk. When it doesn't work, we need to be able to support them so that we don't kill the entrepreneurial spirit. So again, there has to be a system and a mechanism of giving support and giving guidance, and in controlling in a way the ideas that are going to be flying all over the place, because everybody will be excited in the idea of, we want to be part of this atmosphere, we want to be part of this thinking out of the box. But not everybody is thinking about all the sort of the risks, the better usages and so on, and the experience kicks in at different stages. So it's important to again be supportive with your experience and be supportive with evaluating the results. Okay. We talked about this in how we can create an atmosphere of conducive growth. That means I encourage everyone to say something, but at the same time, we need to be able to guide people into not flying all over the place with their ideas, because we all want to join in, but still we need to be focused. So that, again, communication is important, because when we create that conducive atmosphere, we need to allow the sharing, but we give in the beginning a good communique, so to speak, of where do we want to go, we want to, which goal, which direction, the point where we want to reach. And it's really important on how we can do that. Again, we can start a discussion on opinions and ideas to get people to, even if they fear saying their opinion, conversation that's more friendly in sort of like an ideation session where people can bring up ideas and then take it to implementation. But again, that atmosphere will fall onto the entrepreneurial leaders' shoulders on how they create it. And it's not sort of written in books. It's your personal style in a way on how you can create that, because you have to manage it. So it's important just to know that you need to make everybody there feel more welcome to share, and to really get people more focused as you go along for the sharing to be more conducive to what you want to do. Okay, sometimes we don't say the whole truth just in order to protect others from failing or not thinking or just be demotivated, but actually honesty works pretty well. I mean, we tell them the facts, because if we want to really take a journey of discovery, of risks and doing things, we need to know the truth about positive and negative feedbacks, about the problems. So honesty is very important. Again, perseverance, we talked about it. Okay. We, as an entrepreneurial leader, we need to learn all the time. I mean, I always say we have to learn until we die. But being an entrepreneur, it's more so, because things are happening every day in a different way. New ideas, new technologies, new risks, everything is happening, just multiplying by the zillions. So we need to encourage ourselves and encourage our employees to be able to think outside the box by learning, reading more. And there is no taboo topic where we cannot look into and study. I mean, I can't say, because I'm not an engineer, I cannot read, for example, about airplanes. Once I had to go in a session in a university, and they asked us to sell an airplane. I mean, most people freaked out in the selling idea just for that it's an airplane. We don't know enough, but the whole purpose is to sell, but not to know more about it. So again, we need to know the basics. We need to learn more, but still we need to learn how to use what we know smartly in order to be able to create new ideas. Okay. That's a question, again, that I think I would like to send out to you, all of you. Do you think entrepreneurial thinking is a luxury or a necessity of today? Let's keep in mind when we're answering this that it responds to challenges, again, by dealing with the dynamics of change, leading to generate new ideas, and seeing the challenge as an opportunity, and builds new visions and atmospheres. So, do you think it's a luxury or a necessity? Again, that's very important to see. If we are talking some of the areas that I thought, are they a luxury or necessity in problem solving, in decision making, in gender issues? So anybody has any ideas there? I personally think, yeah, somebody's coming in. Okay. The majority of the things that are coming on the chat are saying it's a necessity, which I totally agree on. It has not become a luxury anymore. It was a luxury years back, but now it is a necessity. Okay. Because we have to come up with ideas that are out of the box. We've been trying to solve, for example, at work at the gender issues for years. The only way it started to move is when we started dealing with some things and introducing new ways of handling this problem. So again, I see that the majority of people are agreeing to that it is a necessity, which is great. Okay, I think to fit part of the necessity area, somebody wrote something that's very interesting about why is it more difficult for people who have studied in schools to become entrepreneurs? Because again, to tell you the truth, I mean, being an entrepreneur is being in touch with your instincts and with your basic skills. And when you have not learned so much, you depend more on your basic instincts and skills. So you become easier as an entrepreneur because you have nothing to lose. When you learn, you always have so much to think. I've learned that thing and it's stopping me from making that decision. So it is important to realize that sometimes, yes, education pulls us back because it gives us so many tools to be able to think things in a different way and analyze it. Okay, so sorry. I think there's something wrong here with this presentation. So let me anyway just take this because I think all the slides have lost what's there on them until we technically can solve this. I'll try to just stop sharing this screen and I'll start taking or picking up some of the questions that are here until I get somebody to handle this. So somebody technical can join me, please, because we have an issue with my presentation. Okay. I'll go and seek some help with this presentation. Just hold it for a second. Okay, sorry with this, we have a technical issue, but if you have any questions, please raise your hands and you'll be admitted in to ask the question.
Hello.
Hello, hi.
Yes, can I talk?
Of course, that's a pleasure to hear your voice.
Thank you for this very, I would say, very challenging and it's up-to-date session. First of all, hello to all my friends on the platform. I just like to share something. I've been, since my childhood, because my family has been in business, and like in all of African culture, girls were not meant to be in business. But I think I got that genes from my father, and I'm very good at spotting opportunities on the market. But yet I've tried many things which I couldn't. I'm very good at looking at it, seeing the opportunity, but not at implementing. So I failed badly. And I would agree with you. There was a question that was asked and you answered, where you said that the basic instincts are more important than education. The thing is that when we are in education, this hinders us just to go and take the risk. We calculate too much, and this is why maybe it brings failure. And also because in my case, I've seen that I've been always opportunities that I've seen is ahead of my time. It's something which is too innovative and it just fails, right? So this is something now that I'll be nearing to retire, and I'm thinking again to go back this time, really to have my own thing. So I like to hear from you on this. What would you suggest?
For you to go back on this?
I would, no, I'm saying that I'm in a government position right now, but I'll be retiring next year. I'm thinking of retiring next year, maybe. I've got some more years, but maybe I want to retire because, it's very inside me where I want to have something of my own and to be on my own. So this is what I wanted to hear, because I've tried, maybe I can tell you, I had a flower shop, I had a pastry shop, bringing people from India, because here you've got a lot of Indian weddings. So having Indian sweets, sari business. I've done a lot of things like that. At least 10 business that I've started, but they all failed miserably. Yeah.
Again, failing is learning. Okay, you need to look at it from a learning perspective, not that you failed. I mean, I'll tell you a very quick story. Maybe that would answer a bit of your question, and then I'll go back to answering it in more detail. I established 3 companies in my life so far, and my first company was a huge success, but it faced some problems during a part of its life when it was very successful. I mean, I had my own store, I was distributing, it grew from a small 2-machine to a huge factory. But at the end, I had to close it down. For me, that was, my God, it was a letdown. It was a feeling that I failed. I remained with that feeling until I met a lovely lady that was, into entrepreneurship. And she told me, tell me your story. Okay, so I told her the story, and all the time I'm mentioning that I've tried, I was successful, but I failed. And she asked me one question when I finished that story. What are you doing now? I said, I am starting my next company. And she said, and where are we with that next company? I said, well, it's growing. It's really, I'm building it from scratch. She said, do you know how many people in the world that have gone through a cycle of building, failing, and starting again? I told her, no, I'm sure there are millions. But her answer was, no, they're not millions. So you're one of the few that bounced back. So you've learned, you're not going to make the same mistakes again. And next time you're going to succeed. So again, I'm telling you, yes, if you have the passion, learn from what you have failed from, but build on it. And do not make the same mistake twice. We're going to make other mistakes, but still, I think you can do it, because if you have it in you, you're going to be able to make it happen.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
One small thing, completely different. It's just that I'm preparing right now a pack for, you know, those people who have done a level of technician. They are technician level. So they've done what you call CVQ or national certificate, but not a diploma, but a certificate, but it's for skilled people. And after having done their qualifications, they go and do, they work with some companies, and then later they become their entrepreneurs. So right now I'm writing a curriculum for them to follow a certificate level course on entrepreneurship. Can you refer me to some of the, maybe on chat, refer me to some of the resources I can go to help me to write the content for this entrepreneurship program?
Sure, I'll be sending you that, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else until we're working at this? Because if it doesn't work, I'm going to be just presenting from my computer and sharing my face on this one until we get it fixed. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
This is Susan, Dr. Were. I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
Based on, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to attend the earlier meeting, but based on what I have heard, I realized that entrepreneurship is very, very important. And for me, it is not about having a separate entity called entrepreneurship, but I feel that it is about integrating entrepreneurship in all aspects of the economy, in all aspects of the education, etc. And just to mention a little bit about what we are doing in the university I work for, we now have integrated entrepreneurship in all the courses that we teach. We've placed a lot of importance on it, and we think that everybody should learn and apply entrepreneurship. Now, having said that, I just have one question. I don't know whether you mentioned anything about emotional intelligence, but I would like to know what would be the role of emotional intelligence as far as entrepreneurship and leadership is concerned.
It's very important, okay? Because again, emotional intelligence is one of the main tools that you can use greatly to impact and communicate. So you will use it in sharing your vision, definitely. You will be using it in presenting and pitching your idea, even if it's really innovative. You have to read the people around you. Again, I always say the pitch deck is reorganized based on the emotional intelligence that you see in your group of people that you're talking to. It's not just to say whatever is written on a paper. It's how and what do I start with to capture people. So that's emotional intelligence. It plays a key role, and it's a key tool in how you can succeed in communicating and sharing and getting your idea through and getting more people to be like supporters of it, definitely. So it is a tool that needs to be taught, and early on, because it needs to be fine-tuned and practiced for it to be really perfected. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Yes, my name is Philippe. Yes. Hello?
Sorry, I can't. Yeah, I can't hear you very well.
Okay.
Bonjour.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yes.
My name is Bilikisu. I'm from Nigeria.
Hi.
I just want to ask a question. Yes, yes. I just want to ask a question. I really want to invest in Nigerian capital market, but for honestly speaking, the environment now, it seems to be very, very hostile. That is to say, investors are making big losses in their money. So what exactly do I need to do? What exactly do I need to do? Do I go ahead and invest right now, or should I hold it for some time? So that's my question.
Sorry, I need to clarify that. Again, the voice is not very clear. So correct me if I'm wrong to what I heard. You said that in Nigeria, the environment now is more supportive and there's a lot of investors. Is that what you said?
Yes. Regarding to Nigerian Stock Exchange, that is the capital market.
Okay. And the question is how we can utilize that market?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So again, when you always have capital investments, you need to know, first of all and foremost, what are they interested in? Which sectors? Okay, because again, money is always interested in certain sectors more than others. At the moment when they are there, it changes. Okay, I mean, for example, now many people are not talking about the sector for tourism because of COVID. Again, it's risky. They don't know when it's going to wake up again, and so on. But a couple of years back, that was a hot topic, and people wanted to put money there. So you need to know as a first step, what is that investment money interested in as sectors? Are they cross sectors or just single sectors? For example, if they're interested in agriculture, are they interested also in, for example, industrial agriculture also, and the value chain, or a specific area? Because once you know that, you can know how to approach them with what projects and what ideas. That's the first step. The second is, how do they want to place that money? Do they want to put it with multiple sort of partnerships, like private public partnerships, or they want it with startups and a partnership? Do they have a certain idea or an inclination? For them, the formula of risk is going to be more controlled. So usually money has an idea of how do they want that money protected. They want to, for example, have that partnership or not. You need to understand that. And again, how is it a long-term, short-term, and what are the duration of the whole amount that they're going to be placing, and the interest rates that's going to be there, because it's very important for you next to study the return rates on that in the market itself, and whether it's feasible or it's going to be a problem to return the investment in the right times, so that when you present them with an idea, you can really present it based on real facts. Also, money is always looking for innovative ideas, for ideas that really can create impact in the shortest of times, and yet can bring in a lot of money for them on the long run. So it's a mixture of different things, but I think those can sum it up very quickly for you to be able to understand more how to approach this and how to do it. Just one meeting with them or several meetings will get you that information. I hope that answers your question. Hello? Okay. I'll take one more question and then I think I'll continue or I can continue with the questions and then we can take the presentation when they fix it and when we come back. So any more questions? Okay, I have a raised hand there.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, my question is, how can a working, my name is Hazel Mwenya from Zambia.
Hello, how are you?
Yes, I'm fine, thank you, ma'am. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Thank you, I'm from Zambia.
Yes.
Yes, my question is, how can a working class combine business and work without making any of the two suffer? Let's say, for example, I'm a government employee.
Okay.
I'm supposed to put in all the inputs or whatever necessary that is supposed to be at place of work. But at the same time, I'm supposed to look at my business. then how can I combine the two? Because I need to be effective in whatever that I do, be it both the business as well as at the place of work as a government employee. But how can I handle the two?
Okay, this is going to be challenging, definitely. But again, it's doable. Nothing is not doable if you have the passion and you're really doing something that you like. How practically, just saying it out loud is easy, but when you really start to implement it, it would take a lot from you. It would take a lot of effort, and this has to be sort of like a part-time plan and not a long-term plan, because it's very hard to maintain. The part-time can last up to a year or a year and a half with the right support in your business. Because again, you will need to put a lot and depend on somebody on the ground to be able to be there on a daily basis. You could be there in evenings, for example, but that person has to be running things in the morning. And still your expansion might not be at the fullest level when you're working two things, like working in a job and at the same time handling a startup. But again, I think with the right partners or the right partner, and even if you have a good team in your work that can handle part of the responsibilities in a way, you can manage your time and you can be able to do both. But do not expect to fly with your personal business unless you have the time to work at it more fully. It will grow, but it will grow at a smaller pace or a slower pace than usual. Okay?
Yes, ma'am, I hear you.
Okay, do you have any comments that you'd like to ask other than that, Faisal?
No, I think it's clear. I've heard is that we have to use our partner in effective. If me I'm busy at work, I have to make use of my partner in order for our business to grow. Because if
Yes.
you just depend on myself who's working as an employee, definitely I cannot be in two places at once at the same time.
No,
Yeah,
anyway,
thank you so
you
much.
will not be satisfied at the same time. I mean, you
Yeah.
will feel like you're torn apart and you're actually not giving your best in any area, which is not good for the health or the mental health, so to speak, because you always feel you're failing at something and it's not good. So you need to put a very realistic plan and work at it until you can really dedicate to one or the other.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Bonjour, madame.
Bonjour.
C'est juste, je voudrais savoir, là où vous avez parlé de l'entrepreneuriat qui peut se faire dans les gouvernements, je voudrais juste connaître les nombres, ce que vous avez cité ici concernant la créativité, le dynamisme. Comment est-ce que l'entrepreneuriat peut se faire dans les gouvernements? Vous avez expliqué, mais dans les fonds.
No, actually, I didn't explain it yet. I will explain it supposedly in the Q&A session in more detail. So if you don't mind, I can take that question and answer it once we fix the presentation and go into the next session. But it will be in more detail. If I don't, I will come back to you and you can ask me. Okay?
Merci beaucoup.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I think we should take a break now of 15 minutes, okay? And hopefully we'll be more ready to fly through entrepreneurship into the public and the government sector, and we'll prepare it for you. So enjoy the 15 minutes and see you in a little while, okay? Bye. demand to achieve more with less budgets. And the citizens are requiring everywhere in the world more expectations, more services, more everything for what they, I'm not saying paying, for what they really are living for. They need more from their governments. They need more perfection, more services, more ideas. Again, that forces a lot of the government officials to take difficult decisions about how public resources are mobilized and spent, because we need to make every penny count. Every penny is before it could just give them one service. Now we need to make it to give them two, and with the highest quality, because they are more demanding, and it's the right. Again, the state capacity may be increasing, but public servants require new skills and capabilities in order to adapt to what society and politics is requiring from them. So there is a need, and we've established that in so far. I think we're all in agreement that we need public entrepreneurship now. Why also? Because with digital technology and social media, everything, all the information is being shared very quickly. So whatever happens in one area is quickly shared with everybody. Behaviors, motivation, decision-making, everything is reflected, or sort of like a chain reaction across things. So again, the entrepreneurial mindset in the public sector is very important, because they need to move faster. They need to provide responses that are quicker to what's happening, because people get to know about things maybe sometimes quicker than they do, which is not an option now. The old structures of performance management and accountability have to be replaced by more modern adaptive climate. We cannot grow with an elephant sitting on top of us. We really need to be able to have the ability to reshape and form ourselves in ways that really answer the challenges that are thrown at us every second of the day. They have to, again, public servants are the best, or the public officials are the best people that can really co-design new services. They can co-produce better outcomes, because they are the ones in the system itself. They know the problems. They've seen them. They've heard about it. They know how disappointing it is sometimes and how successful it is. So they are the best people that can really design these new fluid ways of management. There is a comment here. Yes, of course, if government adapted entrepreneurial mindset, the trust in the government will increase. I totally agree. But it has to be done on solid basis with leaders of entrepreneurial thinking in every area, so that, again, the risk factor can be controlled and not so many failings can happen, so that the people will start to lose that trust. So it's a double-edged sort of knife to be able to handle this. You're walking on thin ice. But again, when it works, it will work beautifully. And we will see why. Okay, what are the key characteristics of a public entrepreneur? Again, it's all focused on outcomes. So if every public entrepreneur will think about the outcomes, they will have to use the characteristics of adapting and learning, of focusing on outcomes, on leveraging new resources, building narratives for change, working across systems, and collaborating and networking. All of these are key for the trust to be growing in. I think somebody wants to ask a question. Nope. Okay. So again, I will try to be as brief as possible in these things, so that I don't lose your time and give you time to be able to ask more questions. Collaborating and networking here is meant, I gave some examples, but again, it means here to build coalitions for change within the government, between government and business, between civil society, between all the players or the ecosystem players that really influence a certain area that is being addressed. So you need to be able to work again, we never thought before that in the public sector you need the networking and the collaborations except within the area of expertise. But now there is a need to grow outside this. Hannah, there is an example. For example, this was used in a model in Singapore. It's called the Yellow Ribbon Project, and if you'd like to Google it, you will read more about it. It just shows how successful cross-sector partnerships manage to grow something very small into something very impactful and helping the rehabilitation of ex-offenders and their families in finding and incorporating them into the job markets, which solved a major problem. So it's an interesting thing for you to just Google and read it. It's very interesting. And then again, working across systems. Public entrepreneurs see themselves as part of a system, then an organization or department. So this is very important. You need to work across the whole system, not just in a small unit inside a bigger entity and a bigger entity. Then with time, this is not going to be impactful. And even if you are entrepreneurial, it would take forever for it to really result in something. There is a model in Netherlands that they did in the healthcare sector, which they created a whole model that's led by nurses, again, for holistic care, that really revolutionized the community care completely. And again, you could just read, that's the name of the thing, it's the Bartzog, it's hard to pronounce. But anyway, it's a very interesting model. And it really made a difference because, again, the innovation came from the people that gave that service. So, and it was supported by government officials, and they started really boosting it and replicating this model over and over again. Oops, sorry. Okay. You have to start building narratives for change. Okay. So entrepreneurs usually need to persuade and influence and sell their idea. It's not just for them to be able to think of the idea and just do it by themselves. They need to really create the consensus around that this is not such a dangerous thing. They need to showcase their results, their social innovations, persuade colleagues and partners. Again, also the public entrepreneur needs to do the same, but with administrators, politicians, citizens, so that the blame of anything or the doubts around a certain idea can be controlled. It can never be totally erased, but it can be controlled. This was also used in the NHS, which is the British, they did an NHS Change Day, and that's how they started the narrative among them to make one small change at a time. Again, you could read more about this and really find out how this impacted the lives of thousands of people because they heard each other, they spoke, and they introduced the idea of how change can take place. Another important thing is how you leverage new resources. Again, the public entrepreneur has to, usually is managing a number of resources. If they are a public entrepreneur, they will need to find new ways of financing public services and development of interventions. So it's not just what we do with, they need to think out of the box on how to grow those resources. How can they link them, for example, to private sector and be able to grow it, or to get funding from another government and so on. So it's, again, a tool of how we can pool budgets also. It's not only funding from outside, it's also how we can think smartly of using budgets within different departments or different entities. To tell you the truth, if they're addressing the same topic, they need to put their budgets there and think how to utilize it to the best of the ability to bring the better results. Again, we need to think about all the tools that are available today in digital technology, so many things. Again, if that is part of put and pull together as part of how we manage or leverage new resources, you will find out amazingly how the so little that was there yesterday, tomorrow can do much, much more. And that is entrepreneurial by itself. Focusing on outcomes is one of the most important things also to be able to consider in this, because public entrepreneurship is about doing what it takes to get the right outcome. And it's not just getting out a simple outcome. Because before, if you did sort of step 1 to 3, you're going to get an outcome, definitely. But is it the optimum one? Is it the one that's really creative? Is it innovative enough to create the change that we need to see? So when you think as an entrepreneurial, mindset in a public sphere, you really need to think of that in a different way. And here, the example was Rwanda's evolving public service reform program, which focused on improvement from the top down, but it has been prepared again in a different way. So it's interesting also to read about it, because it did or it started to work on focusing on outcomes. Okay, how can we adapt and learn when we are sort of put in a surrounding atmosphere that is mostly structured as a system to be able to take us on one path in a certain way that has been done for years? It's very hard. This is the hardest thing to do as a public entrepreneur, by the way, because it requires changing minds and it requires taking risks and convincing others. So it's a mixture of everything, but it needs to be done. And the public entrepreneur have to have that attitude into environments that convince, but they have to have the information to convince. They need to look before they come up with their idea. Again, the resources, whether it's financial costs, whether it's going to be changing in the system, in the process. We need to learn and study that and be able to sell it to the public and to colleagues and to different people and teach them how to adapt and learn more. Again, this was part of what multilateral development organizations did during the development, and you could see it along the years if you study how they started developing adaptive programs, because then it could address different challenges on the ground, and it doesn't have to be one for all. So it's very important for a public entrepreneur to think of how to develop, again, an adaptive change, a learning process for their people, for their group of employees, and so on, and how to educate the public in general, because that's very important. Okay, so what are the challenges in public entrepreneurship? There are many, to tell you the truth, but still they're manageable. So we're not saying that if the challenges are listed, that means don't do it. But actually think about it and have it in your mind, and most probably you're going to be able to ditch one or two of those and find solution for others. Again, you need to build the government capacity for public innovation. They will need to play particular roles to unlock the potential of citizens in co-designing and co-delivery of public services. Again, involving people into the change process, not just in thinking the change process because they will be too scared, but I think in designing how it can be rolled out is very important, because then they would think, when this is happening, although it's risky, we have suggested that and we're ready to take that risk because we know that there is a possibility we're going to get better results. So that involvement is important, and sometimes that's the good side, but the bad side is some people will not be accepting to co-design, but start with the small groups and showcase for others how this can really make a difference. Again, how we can build the readiness for collaboration among teams and among departments, among sectors, among governments. It's really hard to get into the habit of collaborating, because that means you have to be transparent, you have to share a lot of things, You have to pool the weaknesses, the strength. So again, you need to start building, because that's a challenge. You need to build the readiness for collaboration. How to do that? It takes a process, and it honestly doesn't have to be massive. It can start on small sort of groups, small islands that work together, and they showcase to others that this has worked. Leading across the sectors is very important, because it's not a, you know, it's a fact now that we cannot solve a problem from one sector side only. It usually has repercussions in other sectors. So when we solve it in one area, usually the public do not feel that it has been solved. So leading across several sectors is a challenge, but it has to be done in order to really sort of live the true meaning of public entrepreneurship. Okay, sorry, I think I've lost this one somehow. No. Why is it paused? I think I have a technological problem again. Okay, let me take that question until somebody can help me with this, because again, okay. There is a question here that's this type of innovation is beneficial in South African context because it enhances standard of living, creating wealth, creates job opportunities. Yes, definitely it would be very important, because I think, let me see. No, that's not the one. So I'll stop just a minute. Let's see, where did that go? Ah, we're back. Sorry about that. Okay. We're back, Karim. I found the presentation that has eluded me for a little while, and we can have questions right after I finish this, because I think there will be a lot of questions. Anyway, to continue with the challenges, we have again the existing pay structures within existing government and public spheres is a main hurdle for entrepreneurial thinking, because it will require more effort from people to be able to do it, and more risk. So why would they do it? So that's one of the areas that needs to be thought out, how we can encourage people to do that. And maybe passion would be one of the main things, because you would like to see change. But again, is it enough or not? That would be a big question. Time constraints, because you're always worried that when I go through the process of entrepreneurial thinking, I won't have enough time to find a solution when it's required for me to find a solution. But actually, the time spent in building an entrepreneurial model for a solution that's innovative enough, even if it takes like a bit more of time, actually can impact and have better results. So again, I think it requires that we need to explain that and sell it to people and explain it and show that you need to be patient, work at this, and you will get better results. Peer pressure is very important. Again, it's another challenge, because a lot of people will keep saying to people that want to do like an entrepreneurial thinking or an innovative thinking in a public sphere, why would I take the risk when I'm coming to work every day doing the same thing and I'm safe? So peer pressure could be another issue that needs a solution. The commitment from second liners and third liners can be a problem if the manager does not share the idea or the innovative idea early on and get their buy-in. They don't have to be all agreeing about it, but at least you would need to have some sort of ambassadors inside the groups, because they are the ones who are going to create the change within that group. It cannot be the time of the manager who would be able to do it. So again, that's a challenge that needs to be worked at. When I share this, you can have a laugh with this joke later, but I want you to just go through this. Okay, so what is the way forward? If we say it very quickly, because I want to go through a live model that really used public entrepreneurship and really changed. So again, as I said before, you need to create pockets or islands of entrepreneurial activity, because from there, sorry, there's a question about peer pressure before I go on. Actually, peer pressure can affect both, because you can have, the question is, can it affect sort of adults as compared to the young? It can affect both, because the young, if they refuse to do it, the adults are going to be definitely impacted, and vice versa. If the young are very enthusiastic and they have the idea, once the adults stop it, they're not going to be doing it, and the level of frustration is going to be increased. So I think it's, again, a double-sided weapon that can affect both, and they have to both agree on a medium of how to really build a trust among them and sell the idea back and forth and define the roles that each will have to play. Coming back to the way forward, many employees can learn to act as public entrepreneurs with the right education. So again, not everybody from their experience would know how to be or to think as an entrepreneurial thinker or a public servant. But the whole idea is you could have programs that can support and build and mobilize the whole idea within organizations. And this has been done and developed by different people. So it could be another tool that could be used. Coaching is one of the most important things, again, for the ones who believe they can coach the ones that are still early on, and support them with their experiences, with their failings, risks, everything. So again, that would make a huge difference in how more people can come forward and join the forces of being a public entrepreneur. Again, we always think that entrepreneurs or in the public sphere need to be the seniors. No, it's not a must. They can come from anywhere, as long as the culture within that entity or department or the whole government, so to speak, supports this idea. But they can come from anywhere, because again, innovation is not about age. Innovation is about the way of you look at things and how we can use them and utilize them. Again, you need to separate ideation, you need to couple ideation and opportunity identification together, away from implementation. Because the minute you have the implementers sitting on the table and you're sitting there thinking about new ideas and opportunities, they will be frustrated. They think you were going to be stopping them. So you need to start and plan the ideation and the opportunity identification process much early in order for it to take its sort of normal path, reach certain conclusions, and then bring in the implementers, because then you will have the buy-ins faster. Again, they will be frustrated and maybe even scared when they hear all those out-of-the-box thinkers sitting on a table. Again, don't think that I need to have big differences from the start. Little differences can start a chain reaction. So I think that's very important to keep in mind. Okay. I think that was mentioned also earlier on about people believe that entrepreneurship cannot be learned. Actually, entrepreneurial thinking can be learned, because it's a set of tools. It's a way of how you, if I may use that expression, wire your brain, how you can utilize all what's inside and arrange it in a different way. So yes, it can be learned. Again, you need to identify the people or the ones that can really have inclinations towards entrepreneurial thinking. Don't start with the ones that are totally against it and try to change them as a challenge. You'll waste a lot of time that you should be spending in getting results, because buying them in will be much easier. Okay. And again, as we said earlier, creating training programs to introduce the idea does help managers in order to set the atmosphere, again, on how to really get everybody aligned in that direction. Does it make a difference? Yeah, of course it does. Or it wouldn't have been incorporated in different countries, different organizations, because again, it does provide a lot of solutions that have not been on the table at all to solve a problem that took years, for example, ate up resources, and yet with one entrepreneurial idea, it can really be on the road to being solved. You don't need to be an entrepreneur to be an entrepreneurial thinker. So again, you will not, again, by nature, appreciate new ideas and new acts, but you need to start to think on how that can impact others. Okay. Does again, entrepreneurship really make a difference? Yes, it does. It increases the general performance levels because everybody feels like being part of the public sphere. They are not implementers and thinkers, or managers, or a manager, and the rest have to abide. Everybody's involved at different stages. So it does increase the performance levels. One of the main things, actually, entrepreneurial thinking does support gender participation at different levels in decision making, because it opens up the idea that I'm dealing with a mind, I'm not dealing with a gender. So it makes hurdles overstepped very quickly. I know that this topic is very deep and it's not that simple, but it does help just to keep that on the side, and we can see how it can be used. Again, if we need to, okay, because we have changed the order of the break, so I'm skipping that one. Now, the interesting thing is there are entrepreneurial nations, which is fascinating, okay? Because when I read this, I honestly found it a very interesting topic, because China is one of the main countries that has announced internally for their whole nation, not just the department, that they're going to be innovation-oriented nation officially in 2006. And that created a repercussion of changes all through their system. After, they stayed for decades in just being part of a system that is so rigid and unchangeable. When they announced that, it really made a hell of a difference in where they are, and we can all see it where they are today, okay? They agreed, the whole, the size of that whole country, that they agreed that they deserve and need competence at all stages. They will not accept to be less than excellent, okay? Which is strange when I read that, because that is not one of the things that used to be associated in our minds. But yes, that's what they agreed on in 2006, having announced that they are innovation-based, okay? That they need to deserve to be more competent. They need, across all stages of production chains, value chains, government, everything, okay? And that only innovation will afford China a leading role in existing and emerging areas of development. So they put that as their main goal in front of all of the country, not a department. And that challenge of an entrepreneurial thinking or a mindset manifests itself here, that it could be done not on a department level, not on a government level, but actually on a national level, okay? How did they do it? Of course, what I'm pinpointing here is very quick points. If you're interested to read this, I can share with you the full document, because it's a very interesting document to read. But again, I picked some points because of the time constraints, and I think it will start you thinking like it started me thinking. Anyway, how did they? Yes. Okay. They quickly established, again, national internet and national strategy to promote mass-based innovation and entrepreneurship. Everything was built on big data. So they used technology, and they established the fact that the masses could build their innovation and entrepreneurship on this information that they have. And then in 2014, the political leaders of China proposed the concept of new normal. Okay, so they started introducing that they're moving to another level. What is the new normal that they announced? They have shifted from high growth to middle high growth, okay? And upgrade of economic structures. They said we're going to upgrade every economic structure we have so that it can be highly competitive and supportive of the idea of innovation and entrepreneurship, okay, across all the country. Shift the source of growth from inputs to innovations. So they're not waiting for something to come to them. They started creating things from scratch. They enforced unprecedented anti-corruption laws and regulations in order to, again, support the whole change of their new normal. So again, this is very briefly, every part of this has a lot of details, but I just want to share with you before the time ends and we can have a few. No, the new normal is not new in China, unfortunately. Yes, it sounds like as if they have been planning it, but in here it's an economic value, not for COVID, to tell you the truth. Okay. So they started building the idea that innovation is naturally linked to reform. While reform emphasizes changes to the unsatisfactory status quo, innovation tends to focus on new solutions that create incentives and voluntary acceptance for change. So you see how innovative they became. They started, we're not going to be working on one person or small groups. We're going to be actually sending out a message that we're going to be different. So everybody can accept change. So it was quite interesting how they did it internally and across the whole country. Again, very quickly, in 2003, China started promoting a service-oriented government with a purpose to transform the core missions of the government from law and regulation enforcement to service provision. So again, their focus shifted from we're enforcing the law and the regulations to we are providing services to our people, to our nation. They started putting citizen satisfaction as the main indicator of their success, the success of their public administration and their new policies and new normals. And as such, this pushed the whole nation towards changing, to improve the economy, the efficiency, effectiveness, transparency, policies, everything in order to have or to serve that goal. In spite of the fact that they had limited resources and a huge bureaucratic system, and it's known historically, of course, innovations in the public sector have been enthusiastically and forcefully promoted along hierarchical change of Chinese government. So because it became a goal and a mission of a whole country, in spite of all the sort of structures that are carved in stone, the change happened, okay? Or it started to happen. Again, there is different innovation types that they used. Again, radical innovation, and there is architectural innovation, different types of innovation, to tell you the truth. Again, I'll go through them very quickly. Radical innovation is a comparatively rare event that transforms the entire societal paradigm of production. So you shift, for example, like from using canals, you go to railways, because that will create a whole new way of transportation. So that's a radical innovation. You change a way of life completely to something else. And this is rarely used because it's too drastic to happen and to be accepted by a lot of people, and you have a lot of resistance. There's architectural innovation. This, again, you tackle two things at the same time: organizational skills and competencies, and market needs on the other hand. So you need to really see both and build something along these lines to serve the purposes in both areas. And this is usually more or less drastic, to tell you the truth. Okay. There is incremental innovation. And this happens within an existing production paradigm and affects only either organizational skills and competencies or market needs. It doesn't affect masses, it's focused on something more. So it's incremental innovation, and it's still an innovation. So you see, there are so many ways of innovation. Nothing stops anybody from innovating. You just need to find what is needed and how it can be done. Also, there is another innovation when you work on a product or a service by itself. So if you have something that is so specific, you still can work at it, and it will be an innovation because you're improving actually that product or that service. Where does innovation come from? It comes from individual heroes. Okay, so it could be one person just thinking of something and is very tenacious and very focused and really is confident and passionate enough to be able to go around and influence a lot of people to embrace that change. Or it could be a sponsor, like a group of senior managers, politicians, departments, any of that sort, so that can push the rest of the team into action. Or, of course, as we said, a nation where it comes for the whole nation to change, which is the China example. Okay, so let's see. I think we're running out of time, I think. Correct. So anyway, let's go into what areas can actually public entrepreneurship affect. It can affect legitimacy, regeneration, or reshaping priorities of government and resource allocation. It can affect policy transformation because it gives policy changes a clear vision and trend towards how they need to shift in order to serve a certain direction. Again, it provides growth mechanisms because you're building systems, and those systems will be better structured and coordinated for future change to be more easily affected through an entrepreneurial mindset. And of course, governance that promotes cross-organization and cross-jurisdiction and cross-sector solutions across different things. So the governance is very important. Okay, so that's very quickly a journey about public entrepreneurship. And if you have anything to discuss, please go ahead and ask it. Okay. Anybody has any questions? Okay. So if there are no questions, I guess that brings us to the end of our sessions. And I hope you enjoyed them as much as I did. And I hope they were beneficial. And I'll share with you the links. And there's somebody, there is the raised hand. Yes. Okay. Oops. You lost the post. Okay.
Oui, bonjour.
Bonjour. How are you?
Je vous remercie, madame. Ça a été une des plus profondes sessions depuis le début. Je travaille dans les institutions étatiques et cette présentation m'intéresse de trop près. Je voudrais juste savoir, vous avez parlé de plusieurs expériences qui ont réussi en Angleterre, Singapour, etc. Au niveau de l'ONU aussi, même l'expérience de la Chine.
Sorry, I think somebody has a mic open somewhere. Please go ahead. Hello?
Oui, c'est
yes.
bon?
Yeah,
Okay.
c'est bon. Go ahead.
Je vous ai dit, madame, juste pour ne pas prendre la parole trop longtemps, vous avez parlé de plusieurs expériences qui ont réussi. Si c'est possible de partager avec nous cette présentation, parce que ça a été trop intéressant, mais vous êtes passé très rapidement sur plusieurs diapos. Ça nous intéresse, le projet, le sujet lui-même est très important pour nous. Si c'est possible de partager avec nous cette présentation et en même temps les liens, s'il y a des liens, qu'on puisse approfondir nos connaissances dans ce domaine. Merci beaucoup.
Sure, I'll share with you the presentation and I'll share with you links to some of the topics that I presented here so you can read more about it if you're interested. And no, definitely I'll do that. And thank you. Okay.
Merci beaucoup.
You're welcome. So does anybody have any other questions?
Mais j'ai parlé. Bon, mais il faut que je parle, il faut qu'on m'accorde, non? Je vais parler.
Sorry.
Bon,
yes.
Moi, je suis.
Yeah, go ahead.
J'ai une question aussi. J'ai une question par rapport au domaine des qui concerne l'entrepreneur pour doit s'accompagner avec les lois. Quand il y a des changements, il faut que cela soit accompagné des lois. Mais s'il y a des lois, et les problèmes se posent au niveau de l'applicabilité, on n'arrive pas à appliquer ces lois. Comment les gens vont, les bénéficiaires de ce changement, peuvent s'en approprier?
Sorry, the first part was not good. Can you repeat again, if you don't mind?
Oui. Madame a parlé sur les domaines de l'entrepreneuriat pour les innovations.
Okay.
Elle a dit que les innovations doivent être accompagnées. Quand il y a des changements, il faut qu'on puisse prendre des lois, des nouvelles lois. Dans les nouvelles lois, il y a des mesures qui sont prises pour aller au changement, à l'amélioration. Et si les lois sont prises, et au niveau de l'applicabilité, au niveau de l'application, ces lois ne sont pas prises en compte. On n'applique même pas. À quoi ça sert?
Okay. If I understand, I'll say the question again, because again, it was breaking, but correct me if I'm wrong. You were saying about entrepreneurship and the ability to affect change, oui. Correct? Yeah. And which sector are you talking about?
Oui.
Is it the public sector?
Moi, je suis madame. Oui, dans le secteur public. C'est okay. Dans le secteur public.
Okay.
Oui.
So how to introduce the entrepreneurship into the public sector? Is that what you're saying? Sorry, I'm not getting because the voice is not very clear.
No.
So if you don't, okay. So if you can write it, I will answer you. Can you write it and I'll answer you? Maybe because it's breaking.
C'est plus facile de discuter que d'écouter.
Yeah, but the voice is breaking.
Vous avez parlé d'innovation dans le secteur public.
Okay, innovation in the public sector.
Oui. Et okay. Quels sont les domaines d'intervention, comme les champs d'application dans le secteur public?
Actually, there is no limitation.
Elle a parlé des lois. Oui. Quand il y a des lois, il faut que les lois s'adaptent au changement.
Yes.
Maintenant, les lois sont prises.
Okay.
Une fois les lois sont prises, on a élaboré des lois et les lois ne s'appliquent pas comment les changements pourraient avoir son impact?
Okay, you need to first make sure that the messaging is conveyed to everybody, okay, for change to take place. Sometimes, yes, you can have the idea, you can start to implement it, but at the same time, for the effect to take place, you need to make sure that everybody is understanding of what that change is going to entail for them. It's not a matter of just the excitement of change, but what is it going to mean for them personally? How is that going actually going to impact their lives, how it's going to change the performance. There is a lot of things that need to be shared for that. To measure that impact, you need to design, again, monitoring and evaluation tools in order to be able to see how. If you know what you need to do from the beginning, what's the goal, then the measurement is easier because you can have a baseline info and then measure the journey, see what's happening and how now it's different. And when you present that transparently to the rest of the people, they will understand and be more enthusiastic about being into the entrepreneurial sphere inside the public government or the public section. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Anybody else? I think there's something. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, is there somebody with us? Another question?
Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, hi, how are you?
Fine, thanks, and you? I'm in Gaborone, Botswana. Thank you very much for the insightful presentation, very relevant and very appropriate for our times. I just wanted to make a comment and also pose a question. The comment will be that one of the challenges with the new resources, such as maybe P, harnessing the private sector to fund a public sector project, is the limited capacity in terms of, is it advisors for the transactions, or it can be contract management, even other expertise that are related to P, because it tends to be, at least in my part of the world, it tends to be a very limited area in terms of skills. The other issue that I would like to ask a question on is on the silos, because you very rightly spoke to governance issues, cross-organization and so on, cross-sector, like a whole of sector approach. How do you deal with issues of, for instance, in a public sector, you have different ministries, different organizations that are almost like competing with each other? How do you get them to break the silo mentality and to get them to work together and understand that it is for the purpose and benefit of the country?
Okay.
That is all.
It's a very complex question, but let me try at it. But the first part is the easier one, so we'll get it out of the way and then get to the silos, which is, I think, an eternal problem, as you mentioned. But the first part, I think if you don't have the expertise and the required consultants right at your fingertips in your same country, utilize and innovate. You can connect online. There is expertise and consultancy all over the world. You really can work with them. Just build that consultancy to be online, and you will have it at your fingertips. And everybody now is used to working online. So I think that would solve part of the problem if it's possible and accepted, of course, according to your rules and regulations. But again, I think you can really benefit this way with less resources, because again, you'll be utilizing them from their own homes. They don't have to fly, they don't have to come and stay for so many days, and all that was costly. But utilizing that expertise across the world, I think now has become more affordable with digital connections and being able to work through distancing. When we come to silos, that is harder, definitely. There isn't a solution for all, but we can always attempt to do it. And I think every problem in that area needs to be solved in a more innovative way than the other. Because again, sometimes, as you said, different ministries do compete and they want to be the winners. But again, entrepreneurs have the same thing, and yet they know how to deal with each other because they talk about win-win. They do not talk about who is winning and who's losing. Again, I think the main rhetoric among different ministries, different silos, need to start to address the idea of a win-win situation. We could both win. We could all of us win. And if we do that, each one of us is going to get the credit for the part that they're doing. So I think how, again, you present the idea, the problem, and the solutions for that problem could mean a lot, but it still could be a problem if the managers and the leaders behind each one of those does not have that mentality. So, and in that case, I think we need to resort to something like China to take it from that this is the national concept of we need to collaborate and innovate. So I think that's the only path that we could think of to get quicker results in a bigger scale. But on a smaller scale, I think you can win small battles by connecting with the people that are more ready and more receptive of the idea, so to speak. And I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody has anything left to ask or comment? I'm sorry that some things are being missed in the writing, but I assure you that when we get that, I can respond in writing to all of you. And if you want to carry it further, we can do it via emails or any way of conversation, okay? Okay, so I think, thank you very much for your time, really appreciate it, and we'll be sharing with you all the things. Thank you, bye. لا شغل شاشة أنا اللي مشيت.
Hello, dear all. How are you? Thank you for being here with us today. I hope you enjoyed these 3 presentations about entrepreneurship and how to change our minds to have this mindset shift to become entrepreneurs. Now we will have a short break for 30 minutes and then we will resume our training day with Her Excellency Ambassador Pamela about environment and SDGs. But before we take our break, please send the evaluation forms. Today is the last day we're gonna evaluate the sessions. Tomorrow we will have just fun together through gamification and learning new skills through games. So today, after Ambassador Pamela's session, we should be able to submit all our evaluation forms. Till now, we just received evaluation forms from 40 participants. We will not be able to issue certificates to those who did not submit the evaluation forms for all the sessions and the days. Everything should be submitted to Tanmaya email. Tanmaya only. Don't send anywhere else. Those who sent at the platform, it's okay. We are gonna gather them and combine them with the others that were received through Tanmaya. Today, after we finish, we will also send to you another evaluation form, which is comprehensive for the whole program. just to see how this program in general, with all its dimensions, is going to contribute to your success in the future. How you're going to benefit from this things that you learned throughout the program in your organizations. Okay, so this will be a separate one. Hopefully by the end of the day or tomorrow morning, you will receive it. No evaluation forms for the gamification tomorrow. Just enjoy the day, and I will have very brief concluding remarks tomorrow for you. And then we will have Saturday off to send us everything. And Sunday morning, we will have our closure or closing ceremony. Okay, if you still have any questions, please let me know on the WhatsApp group. Thank you so much. Enjoy the break, and we will meet after 30 minutes. Okay, thank you.